All right, we got a pretty fun podcast, I'd say, today, Badaki.
Yeah.
We are answering questions from you, the FantasyLand fam community. FantasyLand DMs on the show today. And, of course, we're going to talk about Matthew Stafford officially is a Los Angeles Ram. Okay, let's get straight to it.
Welcome to the FantasyLand Football Podcast.
Hello. Welcome.
What up?
Oh, Badaki, what a time to be talking about football. We got trades happening. We got rumors flying around.
Yeah.
But potentially the coolest news in the last week is you got engaged. Isn't that right? Wow.
It was actually, I think last week I got engaged now. It's been a week.
You feel like a new man?
Yeah, it's different. It's a whole new process. It's a whole new, it's literally gearing up for everything. You know, we're talking about engagement parties. We're talking about where we're going to have the wedding. We're talking about if we can have the wedding because of all COVID and borders and stuff.
Right.
It's really exciting, but also, you know, stressful because I want my family to be here because obviously they all live in New York. But yeah, exciting news.
Well, I want to make sure the community knew our boy Badaki is officially getting hitched.
Yep.
And congratulations, my guy.
Thanks,
all right, we got a fun podcast for you today, guys. We are going to basically be answering your questions. We put up on our social media accounts on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We said, hey, what are the questions you want answered? And then we decided, let's just make a podcast and answer all the community's questions. We got some pretty cool questions. We're going to go through the ones that we loved the most. And maybe next time, if you missed out, this is your chance to hear, I guess, our thoughts on your questions, the things you want answers to. But before we do that, Badaki, we're quickly going to talk about some need-to-know news.
What is going on here?
All right, what is going on in the National Football League? This is your need-to-know news. Starting off with a unhappy quarterback in Philadelphia, Badaki.
Yeah. Carson Wentz just isn't pleased to be in Philly, and I think it's shown. I think there was reports of him and Doug Peterson not really getting along, and then Doug Peterson got the boot, but I think he's still unhappy being there. There's so many rumors, so many unknowns of what's happening with Carson Wentz, but I think he still goes.
What do you mean?
As in, like, he leaves, like he gets traded or something.
You think he's gonna go somewhere else?
I think he still does. Yeah, personally, I could be wrong, but man. I mean, you got to move on. You know, they moved on with the head coach. You got to move on with Carson Wentz. You know, like
it's gonna be hard to trade that contract, though, don't you think?
I mean, absolutely, but that's what they said with
Jared Goff.
Jared Goff, you know, Matthew Stafford, Deshaun Watson. Who cares? Like, people, you know, players have a lot of control now, I feel like, nowadays.
Yeah, no, that's true. Man, what a situation to be in if you're the head coach there. Just not a great situation to take over, but hopefully they get it sorted out. We got some news that Tom Brady, this guy's already 43, he turns 44 in August, and he's definitely thinking about playing after the age of 45. Could we see Tom Brady at the age of 47 in the playoffs? How long does this guy want to play, until he's 50?
I don't know. I think he kind of left the door open just in case he loses his Super Bowl so he can make another run. If, you know, this can definitely be a repeat next year, this Super Bowl, you know, Chiefs, Bucks.
Yeah, and very well could be.
You know, they can, if Tom loses this year, he definitely is going to want to go back and beat Patrick Mahomes if he can, if they can both make it to the Super Bowl. So yeah, I think he's leaving the door open. I think he'll once his contract is up with the Bucks, then I think that's when he's really done.
Yeah, well, I mean, if he's still playing at an elite level and he wants to play, I'm sure the Bucks wouldn't be opposed to allowing him to, continue his career there. All right, Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, we're going to talk about the Matthew Stafford trade as well. on the show today in a lot of detail, and there's a lot of questions about that from you guys that we're going to answer. But before the Rams made the trade for Matthew Stafford, they actually made a run at Aaron Rodgers, and the Packers were adamant that they were not going to trade him, which is interesting because there's been a lot of rumors ever since they drafted Jordan Love in the draft last year that this might be Aaron Rodgers' last dance, so to say. But is Aaron Rodgers going to be a Packer next year for sure?
Yeah, I think he will. There's no way he's going to leave that team, I believe. I think he's going to play his whole career in Green Bay. He's going to retire Green Bay Packer. In my personal opinion,
wow.
Unless he pulls a Brett Favre and he goes to a divisional team. And
see, I don't see a way he finishes his career there because he's still got so much to play for. And what are they going to do with Jordan Love? Are they literally just going to let him rot on the bench? I don't know. I don't see
there's
that
no
happening.
way that you're trading Aaron Rodgers and saying, you know what, let's get Jordan Love here. I think
there's no way you're drafting a quarterback in the first round and not playing him for like 5 years.
I don't know, bro. It's Aaron Rodgers. If I'm the GM,
I know, but it was Brett Favre first, right? It was Brett Favre, and then Aaron Rodgers took over.
I mean,
maybe this is the cycle.
Aaron Rodgers was the first round pick, correct? Where did he go?
So. I'll have to research that actually.
Yeah, let me know where if he was a first round pick. But look, you're kind of going under. When Aaron Rodgers came into the league, it was like, okay, this is Brett Favre. Like,
it was a first round pick.
Has set records. Yeah, first round, right? So this guy has set records. This guy has done some things. The talent there was tremendous, and even in college, Brett Favre was pretty good. I don't know, man. It's Aaron Rodgers. I think he stays. I think he's not going to go anywhere. I think Matt LaFleur will leave before him because the GM is going to be like, we're not getting rid of Aaron Rodgers. There's no way. Bring in a coach that Aaron Rodgers wants to work with. Bring in the people that Aaron Rodgers needs to win a Super Bowl. Let's get it done.
I'm just not sure if that's true because if that's how they really felt, then why would the GM have approved drafting a quarterback in the first round?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
He's a legend.
It's easy to trade. It's really easy to trade people. We're seeing this is like probably the craziest trade year and like trade, like
it will absolutely be a full on like NBA type offseason. And I saw Ian Rappaport predicted there will be 18 quarterbacks who change teams in the offseason. 18.
Jordan Love could be one of them.
There's no, I don't think so. I mean, who knows? Anything could happen at this point, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys, the best way to keep up with this crazy offseason and everything fantasy football, NFL related is to follow us on our social media accounts. Mm-hmm. You can find all the links if you want to find Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Our TikToks are popping off.
That's right.
If you want to find different ways to listen to the podcast, all those links are in one link, super easy for you. That link is solo.to/FantasyLand football. Again, that's solo.to/FantasyLand football. All the links, but we made it so easy for you. All you got to do is go to that link and you'll be able to find anything that you're looking for.
That's right.
Fantasyland football related. But I'm pretty excited for this segment that we're about to hop into. It is Fantasyland DMs.
Oh boy.
So let's see what you guys are asking. Let's see what the community is cooking up here.
Excuse me, can I touch you for a minute? Excuse me, can I touch you for a minute?
All right. We have basically asked on our social media pages, hey, what do you guys want to hear? We're going to make a podcast solely dedicated to answering the community's questions. So what we did, Badaki, was we put out an Instagram story. We put out a tweet on our Facebook group. You can find that in the link I just talked about. We said, hey, what are the questions you want answered on the podcast? What would you like to hear Badaki and I discuss live and in person? Really?
Yeah.
So we picked this 7 people had questions that we were really intrigued about. And we're going to talk about those on the podcast today. We weren't able to simply due to time restraints, we can't have a 5-hour podcast.
Yeah.
So we decided just to choose the ones that we felt were the most relevant right now, Badaki. Hey.
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, look, continue to submit your questions, continue to go out on the questions, because we're going to try to get almost all of them in this off season. You guys have a lot of questions and we want to answer all of them.
Yeah. All right. Our first question is from Austin Davis. He asked this from Instagram. And he asks, this is a draft related question, which I love talking about the draft right now. Will Trey Lance be a star quarterback one day? Trey Lance out of North Dakota State. Same place that Carson Wentz came from. Obviously, very different players, though. They don't play the same type of game. Trey Lance is such an interesting prospect, Badaki, because his 2019 season was one that was really hard to compare. This dude let's just look at his rushing yards in 2019, his rushing stats as a quarterback. 1,100 yards in college, by the way.
Okay.
Which that's a massive accomplishment to get over 1,000 yards in college. 14 touchdowns on the ground. That is elite rushing numbers. That is, if that was just a running back, you'd be like, that was a pretty good season for that running back in college,
Right.
But he also completed 67% of his passes through the air, 28 touchdowns, and this is my favorite part that I want to talk about. 0 interceptions last year, 2019. 0. Right. Now, 2020, as we all know, was a bit of an unexpected year. Things didn't happen the way we thought they would, and his conference only actually they didn't have a season, so he only played one game this whole year, and that was out of conference. That game is, without a doubt, the only reason his stock has maybe been hurt this offseason. Right. Because he didn't really perform all that well in that game.
Right.
He was below 50% completion percentage, and the only thing he really did well was run the ball. And that's not really exactly what you want to see from your first round quarterback prospect. How do you feel about him? What is his upside going into the NFL? He's getting comps from Michael Vick, Watson. What's his ceiling? What could he be?
It's really hard to kind of really gauge that right now. I think it's really early in this process. I would love to see his pro day. I've been reading a lot about him, and I know one analyst is Daniel Jeremiah has been raving about him, saying that he compares to Andrew Luck. He's very similar. He doesn't have the same build, but everything everything that he's done career wise, he plays with maturity. He plays on a very high level, and Daniel Jeremiah really likes that about Trey Lance. So it's really interesting to see. Obviously, there's so many teams that need a quarterback. There's so many teams that are going to take a quarterback. I think he goes obviously in the first round, personally.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think he gets out of the top 15 picks.
Right. So, I mean, he can go, obviously, the teams that need quarterbacks, New England, San Francisco, Denver, Dallas, if Dak leaves, there's rumors about him. Detroit, he can sit behind Jared Goff if he really wants to. The Jets, but I doubt he goes that high. I mean, that's really only the other teams I can think. The Colts, if he falls, the Colts are outside the 15 though. But those are the teams in the top of my head that I can think of that he can probably fall to personally.
Yeah, I think the rumor I've heard the most in mock drafts and people's opinions, and that's really all it is up to the NFL draft, right? I mean, it really is all opinion based until the draft starts. No one thought Daniel Jones was going to get drafted as early as he did. So, I mean, it really it's just for fun. What could be a good fit? And I think what I've heard the most is the Carolina Panthers. That interests me because I think his game could really complement the rest of this offense.
Absolutely.
Maybe if he falls to 8, let's see if Trey Lance could be the guy after 1 or 2 years instead of trading for Deshaun Watson and giving up all this capital. maybe the Panthers aren't really in a place where they feel like they need to give up 4 picks for Watson.
Yeah.
Maybe Trey Lance falls and they see, hey, could we be getting a potential, I think his capacity is Deshaun Watson type player.
Right. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I like Carolina, and I see that. I think Carolina could be they want to win now. Obviously, their defense is kind of in shambles, but their offense, there's so much talent on that offense that if they can get the right pieces in the offseason on the defensive side of the ball and get a Trey Lance or get a Deshaun Watson or anyone that is a free agent that's a better quarterback than gosh, I can't even think of the guy's name. Who's the quarterback at Carolina now? I cannot remember.
Teddy Bridgewater.
Teddy. So if he can get a better quarterback than Teddy right now, then absolutely.
For sure. I think, the issue, which is, similar to Zach Wilson, not to that extent, because Zach Wilson is, BYU is a reputable school. I'm not sure that North Dakota State necessarily has the biggest competition, maybe, is the right word, within their conference. So, again, look at his 2019 stats. That's the upside there. I don't want to focus too much on that one game he played this year because it may have been rust. It may have been him just not in a groove just yet. I think if any of us our conference decided late that we weren't going to play a season and then, let's just play one game for fun, there might be some rust, conferences weren't the same. They weren't able to practice in person.
Yeah.
But I do think the upside for me, I really love the comparison to Deshaun Watson. I think Trey Lance is obviously probably better on the ground. He's got a better running game.
Right.
And I don't think he has the same accuracy that Trey Lance has just yet. But I think that's something that he could potentially improve. And I think that's his ceiling. His ceiling is a prime Deshaun Watson. He could be that. Is it more likely that doesn't happen? Well, history would show us yes. It's more likely that doesn't happen.
Right.
But there's still a possibility there.
Yeah, absolutely. I see him definitely excelling. Trey Lance could be that guy. He could be the sleeper of all quarterbacks in this draft.
Especially in the modern day NFL.
Yeah, exactly. Who would have thought Patrick Mahomes comes out? I mean, who would have thought? Who else came out? Gosh.
Well, obviously the NFL has changed because let's not forget the Bears traded up to get Mitchell Trubisky. And obviously Mahomes and Watson all fell. But yeah, I love this question. I love talking about, potential fits for the NFL draft.
I like it.
Thanks, Austin, for your question. All right, let's. Tommy is actually he's a favorite on the podcast. He's one of our favorite listeners. He's always commenting on our content and following in on the live streams, and he's loved us since day one. But this is from Thomas. I don't know how to spell your last name, my guy Cheriton, aka Tommy. We always call him Tommy.
Yeah.
His question, Badaki: could Marvin Jones be heading to New England in the offseason, and would it be a good fit?
Right. Look, there's definitely a lot of different scenarios for Marvin Jones that he can land there, but I don't think he does. I personally don't think it's a right fit for him. I don't think it's a right fit for the New England Patriots. I think they need to be focusing more on a quarterback. I don't think Cam Newton's that guy for them. Whether, there was big talks Matthew Stafford wanted to go there, but then he kind of shut that down with Matt Patricia went back to New England. So
that was interesting, right? He was like, hey, the one place I don't want to go is New England.
Yeah.
There's got to be a reason, right? That's really interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. But look, New England Patriots has the 15th pick in the draft. I think they go with a quarterback personally, whether that is a Trey Lance, whether that is a Zach Wilson if he falls, or Justin Fields if he falls,
Jones.
But I doubt it. But look, I think they can go with the better receiver. There's the better talent out there. A-Rob, Kenny G, Corey Davis. I like Corey Davis better than Marvin Jones personally, if they want to probably get somebody like that.
But do you think they will have any sort of appeal to bring in a player like that?
There's
I don't
no
think
need.
the appeal will be there for any of those players.
Yeah, there's no need besides the A-Rob and Kenny G, and even then, I think you and I spoke about it. We don't like the idea of Kenny G because he's so injury prone. The only top free agent receiver right now is A-Rob. So
Yeah.
it's kind of hard. But look, I have ideas where he can fall.
Okay.
There's different teams that he can probably go in and make a difference a little bit. The Colts.
All right, let's hear it.
I have the Colts. If Ty is no longer there, obviously they got Michael Pittman Jr. They need some more help in the receivers. Miami, if they don't get a receiver, which will be dumb. I think that would be really dumb if they don't get if they don't trade down, and let's say they get Devonta Smith, or they trade down and get a Waddle or Jamar Chase. But if they don't get anyone there, and they get no receivers in the draft, I think Marvin Jones or Corey Davis could be a good help.
Right.
Cardinals, obviously Larry Fitz retiring. They have DeAndre Hopkins, Andy Isabella. But I think they need another receiver. And, I don't think Christian Kirk's the guy either. Bills, I like the Bills. But
right. Bills is an interesting fit. They could have a true wide receiver too, and he doesn't have to play above his capacity.
Exactly, which I kind of like that. Cole Beasley was a good help. John Brown was really injury prone. Marvin Jones is a bigger body, but he's fast. He can kind of make himself small. And then Green Bay. Green Bay could be interesting. Obviously, MVS, very inconsistent. Alan Lazard was hurt this year. His up and down consistency, there was some hype before the draft. Obviously, him on the other side with Devonta Adams. But I think, Aaron Rodgers can make Marvin Jones, can make a Corey Davis great.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I like all those teams. As much as I hate to say it, all the Patriot fans out there, I know Tommy's a Patriot fan. I think you need to be in a full rebuild mode. Right. I think it's time to hit the reset button. We tried, can we get a quarterback in there and see if our defense can carry us? And, I think at this time, as a fan, if I'm a fan of the Patriots, I'm actually begging the franchise, can we please hit the reset? I'm ready to be a terrible team to get a high draft pick. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, let's not just get some average players in to see if they can get us maybe into a wild card. This team has no chance of making a Super Bowl right now.
Yeah. And
all right, Tommy.
I think just really fast before we continue, I remember watching the game. I think it was Sunday night. I think it was Patriots against the Jets or something like that. I remember that interesting stat that came up, and they were saying how there wasn't a receiver that have actually excelled, and they were all picked in the first round, and they were all bust. Almost every receiver, or in the top 4 rounds or something like that, almost all of them have busted. And look, the receivers that they have there is not really going well. N'Keal Harry, Demille Byrd, Jacoby Myers, they're not contributing.
Jacoby Myers had a decent season, but you're right. Like, there's not been a true number one talent there for a long time. Man.
Yeah.
Speaking of Patriots at Jets Monday Night Football, you mean the game of the year? Monday Night Football?
Bro, the Jets should have won that game, by the way.
That was painful to watch. Let's do better Monday Night Football. Let's do better. All right, we've got a couple questions about Matthew Stafford from the community, and I'm excited to talk about Matthew Stafford. We haven't had a podcast since he got traded, and as soon as it happened, you and I were together. We were at a hotel in the city, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, this is breaking news. This could alter the NFL, right?" Both of these franchises, these are franchise-altering moves. For better or worse, we don't know yet.
Right.
But let's talk about it, okay? Question from Joel Moore. Love you, Jolie. He says, Rams-Lions trade, it has to be talked about, so let's break it down. So, the Rams receive, obviously, Matthew Stafford.
Correct.
Okay, that's all they received in this trade. They gave away 2 first-round picks, one in 2022, one in 2023, and a third-round pick in this year's draft in 2021. And let's not forget that guy, Jared Goff, the one that, played in the Super Bowl, Jared Goff, who's got that massive, massive contract.
Right.
How do we feel about this, Badahi? Let's talk about it.
Look, initial thoughts, I think we spoke about it. It was like, my initial thoughts with Matthew Stafford can be going to the Super Bowl, and there's so much draft capital, or so many people, fantasy draft capital has just shot through the roof. You know, Cooper Kupp, the Robert Woods, Tyler Higbee, Cam Akers, you know, all these people, Josh Reynolds, even his, like everyone can really take a lot of steps up. But thinking about it now and kind of really analyzing it and seeing what they, you know, what the Rams gave and what the Lions got. Lions, after analyzing it, wins in the long haul.
Yeah.
And the only way that they know that they win is if only way you know that they win and everyone else knows that they win is if Matthew Stafford does not make it to the Super Bowl.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You know, let's be honest here. This is a move because the Rams feel their defense is in a place that it's elite. Mm-hmm. They have great offensive weapons all around them, but the quarterback play wasn't good enough to get it done. Right? So this is very obviously a Super Bowl or bust move. You don't trade for a guy and give up 3 picks, 2 in the first round, and not your star quarterback, but a guy that you paid max money to just make it past a wild card round. Right. You know what I mean? Like, this is we will only ever know, and this is how it always works. We will only know who won this trade in 5 years. That's really a good time frame to say.
I was going to say 2.
2 years? I don't think so, because all these, you know, let's say they have a draft pick in 2023. We'll give that draft pick in 2023 time to grow and develop, right? Mm-hmm. So I think for the Rams side, do you make the Super Bowl? Even if you just make the Super Bowl, maybe this is worth it, right? But if you don't ever even make the Super Bowl, this may have been pretty easily a Lions victory.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really depends on who the Lions draft and who they get and who they develop, who they bring in. You know, it's gonna be interesting to see all of, or is it Dan? His name's Dan Campbell, the new head coach for the Lions. All of his personnel and everyone he's gonna be bringing in. Because, look, I think that Matthew Stafford is really talented, and I think that he had weapons around him. Let's not forget he played with one of the best receivers ever in Megatron, and like he had talent, and he had he had Reggie Bush behind him as well.
Here's a question then, because the common statement around Matthew Stafford is, well, he's just never had a team around him to win. Mm-hmm. And he's had some decent pieces around him, right? You gave up 2 first-round picks, Jared Goff, and a third-round pick, and, you know, putting all emotions aside for a guy who's never won a playoff game. I just wanted to throw that out there. He's never won a playoff game.
Right.
So the question is, was the talent always there and the organization couldn't put a team together? We're going to find that out very quickly. We're not going to have to wait very long to find out that answer.
Right.
And for me, my question to you is, with the current team the Rams have, is there enough to be a Super Bowl team? Is this actually a Super Bowl team considering all the other teams in the NFC? Are they getting past the Bucs? Are they getting past the Packers? You know, these kind of elite teams within the NFC. The Saints,
I think so.
Maybe, if they get
I think so.
quarterback.
And the reason being is that Matthew Stafford has gone, at least for the Packers, he's gone against the Packers. He played them twice a year, almost his whole career. And he knows Aaron Rodgers. He knows that system. He knows that. I think he can beat the Bucs. I think that team is talented, especially that defense. That defense is talented enough to beat, Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald. They're all smart enough and talented enough to win against Tom Brady. And Matthew Stafford, with the weapons now, he probably needs to get a better offensive lineman. I think his old line is a little bit old, but I think he can do it. I think he can do it. Hopefully, it all depends on who he's going to go up against.
Hopefully, Whitworth is back. He was great all last year on that offensive line, even though he was old. Let's not forget about the other guy in this trade, Jared Goff.
Okay.
Right? We can talk about Matthew Stafford. Will he win a Super Bowl? Does he even have a chance to win a Super Bowl? We'll find that out. But the other guy on the end of this is Jared Goff. And I have said on the podcast being a Rams fan would be so hard because your team is great, but you just don't have a quarterback that's that guy to get you to the Super Bowl. So from a Rams perspective, as a Rams fan, you have to be happy even though you gave up a bunch of assets, right? Because the reality is you knew Jared Goff wasn't going to get it done. He just wasn't going to get it done. Now you get to see with a team in its prime, it's win now. You know, Aaron Donald's not going to get any younger. Jalen Ramsey's not going to get any younger. It's win now type mode.
Yeah.
But there is a guy on the other side of that, and his name is Jared Goff. Now, the GM there in Detroit was a part of the scouting team that got Jared Goff to LA. But let me just paint a picture to help people understand why this is so devastating. You play college in California, right? Mm-hmm. And you're a great college quarterback. You then get drafted to the Rams, and they're in LA. You get to move to LA, and you almost make a Super Bowl. You almost win a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And out of nowhere, you're like, hey, just want to let you know you actually have to move to Detroit now. That is like mentally such a hard thing to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
This is hard for Jared Goff.
He got money, bro. He's going to be flying back and forth after every game on Sunday. He's just going to go, all right, I'll be back on Tuesday or something. I don't know. I mean, Detroit is a crazy city to live in. You know, it's a really hard. The fans are really, you know, they're diehard fans. This organization or this franchise, you know, for the Detroit Lions hasn't been good at all, and they need that. Matthew Stafford was their golden boy.
No, okay, well, is Jared Goff the quarterback of this team?
No.
In 1 year.
They need to give him pieces. There's no one there.
Yeah.
It depends on who they bring in. If they draft a receiver,
right.
If they end up not drafting, he has TJ Hawkinson. Cool. Right? Marvin Jones gone. Kenny G is out. Both of them are free agents. So who they get? Do they get a receiver? You know, does a Jamar Chase fall to them? Does a Devonta Smith fall to them? Does a Kyle Pitts fall to them? Well, they don't need a Kyle Pitts unless they run a 2 tight end set with TJ Hawkinson. But you know, he has DeAndre Swift in the back. I don't know. I don't think he is. I think first year he will be the starter. They're gonna have to draft a receiver, a talented receiver next year.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think it'll be interesting to see if they stick with Jared Goff or if they draft someone in the draft this year. All right, we got another question about Matthew Stafford. This one's from Jack Amarata, and I'm sorry if I'm not saying your name right. Jack's question is, where do we draft Matthew Stafford in fantasy drafts next year?
Yeah. Look, I think he's still kind of where he was at this year, kind of ish. I think he'd still be a top 12 quarterback. I still think that he could be a deep sleeper in the draft, but I think a lot of people are going to reach for him this year. I think you need to expect that people are going to be reaching, but it's really hard to say. It's really hard to say. Like, I don't see. There's still so many other talented quarterbacks in front of him. He's literally at the end of the talented quarterbacks. He is probably the last person on that list of talented quarterbacks.
I agree. I think the issue here is now there's a big name and the trades happened, and I think what might happen, unfortunately, is you might no longer be able to get value from the draft pick that you would need to take him with. Exactly. He might go too high to actually return value. Mm-hmm. I think he definitely has a chance to be a top 7 quarterback next year in fantasy. But I think maybe a more realistic scenario is maybe top 12 type ceiling. I'm not sure that, you know, he still had Kenny G and not this year, but he still had decent options. He still had DeAndre Swift. He still had TJ Hawkinson. And he didn't necessarily do what we thought he would in fantasy this year. And I might advocate that it might actually be worse for him in LA because his defense is really great on the other side. Maybe they don't need him throwing the ball 50 times. You know, maybe they only need him throwing the ball 30 times and just doing it well. So I feel like top 12 is a safe spot for me. I don't think you should be reaching for him anywhere above, you know, that quarterback 12 to 13 area. If you get him as a steal, great, but I'm not sure you're going to be able to anymore with the hype around him. And he's a person I'm personally looking to avoid in fantasy drafts because of the hype.
How do you feel like, I'm just going to give out names to you right now, because I feel like these are names that people are going to be giving. You know, should I draft Joe Burrow or Matthew Stafford?
I'm not sure Joe Burrow's going to play.
If Joe wasn't injured and he was doing it, Joe Burrow, Matthew Stafford.
I would probably go Matthew Stafford in that scenario for this year. Not in Dynasty, but for this year.
Matthew Stafford, Ben Roethlisberger.
Matthew Stafford, absolutely.
Baker did pretty decent. Matthew Stafford, Baker Mayfield.
Matthew Stafford, for sure.
Ryan Tannehill, Matthew Stafford.
See, now this is an area where it gets interesting because I am on the fence either way.
Right.
I think the Rams will lean on Stafford more than the Titans lean on Tannehill, and that might make me lean towards Stafford. But I think Stafford has a more clear offensive identity and a pathway to points. So I do lean Stafford there because I think they lean on him more than they lean on Tannehill in Tennessee.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think it's going to be interesting next year to see what happens. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to shoot up. You know, like Justin Herbert's in the top 10 now, and where are we taking Dak Prescott? I mean, I think Dak Prescott's still going to be top 10, but if he's still in the Cowboys, if he's not, you know, like Russell Wilson struggled.
I think the overall advice here from you and I, from what it sounds like, if we could collectively say one statement, is don't reach because of the hype.
Yeah.
On Stafford, right?
Yeah. If you're another thing, if you're somebody that takes a quarterback really late round, I think this is a great option personally. You know,
if he's there, he's not going to be there.
Yeah, if he's there, I think it will be really interesting. You know, if you're maybe in the ninth, it sounds crazy. I doubt he'll be there, but in the 9th round, 10th round,
no way he's there.
You can. I would definitely be taking Matthew Stafford, but I doubt he goes anywhere past 7, 6 maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's look at our next question, Badaki. This is from Instagram handle Taco Bell and Jesus. That's so funny. He's got 3 questions, and we liked all of them, so we figured we'd just do a quick fire back-to-back on these questions. The first one is, who wins the Super Bowl? And we actually talked about that, not on our latest podcast, but the podcast before that. I'm going Chiefs.
I'm going Bucks.
I said that at the beginning of the season. You're going Bucks. Mm-hmm. Badaki's got these weird ties to Tampa Bay that are now
apparently
coming out
nobody
of the
knows it.
woodworks.
Apparently nah. Check it out. Look me up on Facebook, bro. I got pictures in Tampa.
I got pictures in Tampa. Okay. And we actually gave our Super Bowl MVP predictions as well on that podcast last week. Next question is, who do you think will be the top fantasy scorer next year? I'll let you start. And all of fantasy.
Of all of fantasy.
All.
Gosh.
Who's scoring the most points?
Josh Allen?
Now it's not so clear. Whoa, Josh Allen? No way. Really? You don't think it'll be Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, one of those guys?
I was thinking running back. You know, I thought about it.
You could be right.
My first answer was going to be CMC, but
yeah,
man, Josh Allen was crazy this year, and I think he's going to have an even better year 2 with Diggs.
Well, why don't we answer it this way?
By position.
Okay, who's your top scoring quarterback? Who's your top scoring running back? Okay. Just those 2 for now. So who do you think finishes quarterback 1 and running back 1 next year?
Yeah, so I would say CMC and Josh Allen.
Okay.
I like those 2 answers.
I'm going Patrick Mahomes. I think he retakes his throne next year in fantasy. I think people might be underlooking him. And then for running back, I'm actually going to go Alvin Kamara. I feel like they're going to have to rely on him a lot more next year with the uncertainty at quarterback. So I'm going to go Alvin Kamara and Patty Mahomes. That's how I would love to see it pan out.
Right.
And the last question from Taco Bell and Jesus is, why did you start Fantasyland football?
It's a lot. You know, I mean, it's not a lot. Look, short question is, pandemic happened. We both lost our jobs, and we kind of sat down and we said, we were just playing Call of Duty once. We was like, man, what should we be doing instead of just playing Call of Duty? And it was like, let's start a podcast, and let's start a fantasy football podcast. We love fantasy football. We were talking about fantasy football all throughout the off season, and we was like, let's just do it. This is the perfect opportunity for the both of us. Obviously we had all the time in our hands to do it, and we kind of just took that leap. So that's really it. I encourage people to take the leap. That's the hardest part. Yeah. The hardest part was starting it.
100%. The hardest part was putting it together and figuring out what are we actually doing, But we've loved fantasy football and we've loved the NFL since we were kids. We have grown up on this stuff. This is stuff that we've lived, we've breathed. We have played fantasy for over 10 years each. It's been something that's been a part of our lives forever. And we thought, what's the one thing that we could talk about and feel like we could really help people out with? Yeah. That people would want to listen to. And, because we both lost our jobs, something beautiful started. So shout out to COVID, because I don't think we'd be doing this if it wasn't for us both losing our jobs. But we got big plans for next year, and this isn't a plug, but it kind of is. Patreon.com/FantasyLandFam. That's the easiest way for you to support us. Yeah. If you do love the podcast, if you do love the show, and you want to continue to see us grow, you want to continue to see us meet our dreams and goals with this podcast, that is the easiest way to support us. So let's go on to the next question here. We've got a question from Sean247, and it's a dynasty question, Badaki.
Wow.
And the question is, where's Kyle Pitts going to be drafted in the rookie draft, and where would you take him? I want to set this up because I assume the question is simply based, where are we drafting him in dynasty drafts, right?
Right.
Now, I would like to quickly say that really depends on where he lands in the NFL draft.
Yeah.
These are teams that I'd be comfortable with him landing in and saying he has a big fantasy output in year one. And I think these are good fits. Mm-hmm. The Panthers, the Cowboys, the Giants, the Chargers, and the Cardinals. I think if I could dream up an ideal scenario and I could say, man, if he was in this team, that would be the Los Angeles Chargers. I just feel like that would skyrocket his value in dynasty drafts. Is that your favorite spot? What's your favorite spot for him in the draft? Unbiased. Don't say the Giants.
Unbiased. It would be Cardinals for me.
Okay. All right.
I think that they need a good tight end. I think that we saw Kyler Murray target the tight end Dan Arnold there. Just imagine if he had a faster, quicker, bigger tight end. It can really help them.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we've talked about Kyle Pitts on the show quite often. I think there is no debate that he is crazy talented. He probably could enter the draft as a wide receiver, but he has a build for a tight end.
Right.
He's just that kind of athlete. He could play the wide receiver position. And any team he goes to, they're going to have an X factor, because is he a tight end? Is he a wide receiver on this play? Is he blocking? Is he going out for the pass? It's one of those game-changing offensive players. So let's talk about it in Dynasty. I'm going to give you a list of players. I did a little research on my own, and I thought, okay, let me break this down. Who am I actually, if I'm doing a Dynasty league, and this is assuming that it's not your first year, right? This is assuming that you're just drafting the rookies, right? So at least year 2 of a Dynasty league. If you don't know what Dynasty is, message us. We'll tell you. It's a really fun way to play fantasy. These are the players I'm going to list them for you that I am taking above Kyle Pitts. All right? And this is all based on your positional needs with your Dynasty team, by the way.
Okay.
Because if you don't have a tight end at all, this could change. But I am taking Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, Najee Harris, and Travis Etienne over Kyle Pitts. Those are the only people I'm taking over Kyle Pitts. I think the line is blurry when it comes to Jalen Waddle, because I think that is kind of where the line gets a little gray. But I'm not taking Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields. I'm not taking any of those quarterbacks above him in a rookie draft. And the reason is, we say it all the time. Quarterbacks aren't as valuable as running backs, tight ends, and wide receivers.
Right.
Because you can find quarterbacks that are startable almost every week off the waivers, right?
Yeah.
You can't find a tight end that's startable every week and a guy that you can rely on in a dynasty league. However, a guy like Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, these guys could be X factors for their team. They could have, not saying it will happen, they could have a Justin Jefferson type year with a team that they land on. Same goes with Najee Harris and Travis Etienne. They could have a Jonathan Taylor type year as a rookie. They could impact a team like that. They have that sort of talent. And running backs that have a full workload are hard to find. So that's why those are the 4 above Pitts for me in a rookie dynasty draft. I'm taking him right at 5 if I have an opportunity. And if he falls to me at 6 or 7, I'm thanking the fantasy gods. Because I feel like you could be getting a tight end 1 in 5 years, right? And maybe 2 years. Who knows? You could finish as a top 10 tight end this year.
Dynasty. I think it depends on your team. I'll be honest with you. It really depends on your team. So if you have really talented people on your team, like a Justin Jefferson, like let's say you got Devontae Adams, or let's say you got, the Stephon Diggs in your dynasty team, then I'll probably be trying to target Kyle Pitts. Because if you have one of those guys and maybe you have a weak tight end, I'm going straight for Kyle Pitts. It could be a bit of a reach. Maybe you think Devontae Adams is getting older and he's coming towards his end, especially in dynasty. If you it's not older, but it sounds weird to even say that. But
yeah, it does.
But still, it's dynasty. So you're thinking about like the next 5 years.
You always have to think 5 years ahead in dynasty.
Yeah, which is interesting. So I think that it all depends on your team. I agree with you. I'm taking all those people above. I think for me it will be Jamar Chase, Devonta Smith, then Kyle Pitts. That's it for me.
Right. So I think what you have to be careful of is drafting based off positional needs in the first round of a dynasty draft with rookies. Because let's say you draft Kyle Pitts over Najee Harris, and then let's say Najee Harris lands, I don't know. Let's say he lands in New York and the Jets get Deshaun Watson and Najee Harris is putting up 15 touchdowns his rookie year. If you need a tight end, you might have just let go of your biggest trade piece instead of Kyle Pitts. I just feel like when you're in the first round of a dynasty draft, look more at talent and opportunity than anything else. Not your positional needs.
And I think that's what's going to be hard. I don't think Najee Harris is going to go to a team that needs him now. I think he's going to go to a team that he's going to sit, or he's going to be behind somebody. It's going to be something really, really hard for him to kind of just come in and play unless he goes to a team that needs him. I can't think of a team that needs a solidified running back like New England. I don't think they take him that early. It's hard to say.
And at this point, this is all speculation. When we actually know where these players are, it'll be much easier to tell you where to draft them, right? Like if Kyle Pitts ends up in Carolina or LA or Arizona, and Najee Harris ends up on the Saints and he's backing up Alvin Kamara, that's a completely different conversation. I would slot Pitts ahead of him. So we'll be able to give you a more accurate description of what we would do after the draft, but it's fun to talk about for now. And I really do feel like Pitts is the type of guy who has a talent to be a tight end 1 in the league at some point after the Kelce's and Kittles have retired, Yeah,
I like it. All right. Eli, 28888J.
Don't miss an 8.
all 8s.
Yeah.
All right.
This is our last question, by the way. Last FantasyLand fam question.
Yeah, last question for the day here, guys. Shout out to Eli for being the last guy. Colin Johnson, the most underrated rookie. And if you don't know who Colin Johnson is, he was a wide receiver out of Texas. He was drafted to the Jags. He was a 5th-round pick. But he didn't really do much this year, did he?
He didn't do amazing. And I think maybe what Eli's referring to is his collegiate career and the potential that is still there. Right? He had some decent games. He put up 2 touchdowns on 14 games played. That's not necessarily a breakout, but the talent is there. We've seen the talent in college. And does a guy like Trevor Lawrence step in and maybe he finds a new favorite? Maybe DJ Chark isn't his wide receiver 1. The talent is there. Maybe that could change everything.
Yeah, I think I think for me with Colin, and I get it, maybe Eli is a really big fan of Colin Johnson, but there's too much talent in front of him. Laviska Shenault, DJ Chark, they have James Robinson in the backfield. I think he kind of gets lost in the mix, and I don't really think that he's going to be emerging, in my perspective.
Yeah.
Anywhere. He wasn't on the field much this year. He averaged 16 snaps per game. He just didn't have that much playing time, and maybe that's because of all these other. They have Keelan Cole maybe as well. I'm not really sure.
So in your opinion, he just gets lost and wrapped up. I like talking about this because, in 3 years, we could be talking about a guy named Colin Johnson and just being like, look, he just kind of gets lost in the pack, and he could be, a top 12 wide receiver if Trevor Lawrence favors him. I like the talent, and I love the question, Eli. I'm just not sure either that he's the most underrated rookie. I would love to see his talent translate. We'll see if it does, because you could be right. I'm just not sure I'm ready to name him the most underrated rookie as of now. But there is an opportunity. He does still have a lot of talent. But Badaki's right. The snap count, 16 snaps a game, it's not like the Jags were in a place where they didn't want to give rookies an opportunity to succeed. You know?
Exactly.
But I'd love to see what happens with him next year. And let's not forget that when a new quarterback comes in, they always find a favorite. And maybe it's not always what we expect it to be.
Yeah.
So instead of DJ Chark, we could be talking about Colin Johnson next year. Who knows?
Yeah. I think it could be interesting. Maybe they get rid of Chark. Maybe they get rid of Laviska, but he just got drafted. Maybe something crazy happens in the offseason.
They got to keep Laviska. No, he's got some talent. What's funny is he might be the most underrated rookie this year. I know that's crazy to say, but he might actually be in that category.
I think so.
I would love to talk about Laviska more, but we will do that on another podcast. This was FantasyLand DMs answering the questions that you brought to us. We gave you an opportunity to be a part of the podcast, and you brought some questions, so thank you so much for showing up, guys. Weren't able to answer everyone's questions, but don't miss the next one so you can be a part of it. And Badaki, do you want to finish off the show for us with anything?
Stay safe. Huge love. Remember patreon.com/FantasyLandFam. Best way to support the show. Make sure you check out all of our platforms, Instagram, TikTok. We're really blowing up on TikTok right now. Our goal is to be the #1 source on TikTok. Okay, we're gonna if we want to give you a little glimpse of something that we really wanted to blow up, that's TikTok. Go on TikTok, support the show, like, comment, share. That's all love, really. Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? When you sign up for the Patreon and you get that, fantasy football exclusives at the end of the year, when a champion's named in your league, you're going to be saying this. I definitely am not pushing the right button. Hold on.
Tell them to bring
there we go. That was so delayed. I love it. No. All right, guys. All love. Thanks so much for listening in. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. Let us know if you like this kind of pod. Do you like us answering your questions, or should we just continue to create our own content and deliver it to you? I hope that you enjoyed it. Badaki, you look great. Congratulations on the engagement.
Thank you.
Big things ahead in 2021, and I hope there's great things ahead for you this year. I promise you there is. And all right, we'll see you on the next podcast. Next podcast, I don't know if you guys remember, we did a mock draft before. Picks 1 to 5. We're going to finish that off. Picks 6 to 10. And I'm pretty excited for it. I love talking mock drafts, but we'll see you on that podcast. See you there.
See you there.
Hey, yeah, you, the one listening to this podcast, you made a good decision today. Keep making those good decisions. You know what? Go ahead and do a little dance right now, like no one's watching. Cause you deserve it.